You're through to the Place North podcast, your digital resource for the latest insight and analysis on all things property in the north of England.
Place North is looking to build on the foundation laid by Place Northwest over 15 years of covering property and regeneration, breaking news, hosting events and providing forums for networking and debate. We're going to talk about the topics and issues on the news agenda since we launched our coverage of Yorkshire and the North East in March, and we're going to explain what Place North is all about. I'm Neil Tague, I'm Senior Reporter with Place North, and I'm joined today by Louise Hull, Business Development Manager for Yorkshire and the North East. Just to move on to the first of our sections, the state of the market. Are you finding, Louise, that there's general optimism in the market when you're out and about talking to companies at the moment?
Yeah, obviously, and we're aware that the market has its challenges, but it's still very optimistic. You know, there's still a lot of business going ahead, certainly in Leeds, and you only have to kind of walk around Leeds city centre and beyond to see the amount of development that's still happening across Leeds, and it's fantastic to see. And that's not only kind of brand new developments, and in the 20 plus years that I've lived in West Yorkshire, it seems like there's kind of been constant development, but I'd say certainly in the last year or so it's even more, as well as kind of repurposing, you know, older buildings as well. There's some established retail buildings right in the heart of the city centre that are being repurposed to kind of student accommodation. So kind of that change in the certainly Leeds city centre, and I'm sure beyond as well, that's apparent. So I still think there's a lot of positivity in the marketplace.
Yeah, I would agree with that. For my part, I think there's always activity of some kind across property markets. Sort of what the state of the economy, it means something for property in some way. And one of the things we've noticed is sort of post-COVID, and it's been very clear in the Leeds office market since we've started doing coverage, that the thing agents keep talking about is a flight to quality and people taking less space but better space, and it's just been really clear over the last few weeks. We've reported on deals in Leeds with Hexa, with Ryder Levitt Bucknell, R&B, LB and GHD. A great Leeds success story. And they've all sort of taken space in that sort of 5 to sort of 10-12,000 square foot market. They're all sort of putting space in there where it's really good quality and a place to meet clients, and where the meeting space and the breakout space is as important as the desk space. It's not sort of there for everyone to have a desk all the time. So that's one of the things I've noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. It's so refreshing to see how these spaces are being managed and thought out, so it's not kind of like the space of old. And I think it will, you know, it's great to see what the future looks like. I think there's been a lot of change.
Yeah. I think the other thing we should probably touch on here is where there probably are more concerns is residential. Obviously, Help to Buy ended last year, and then the whole Truss Kwarteng mini budget, which put a cat amongst the pigeons, to put things mildly, last September. And I think things have been really uncertain across those markets since the sort of whole interest rate changes and everything. There's been a lot of caution, understandably, because the whole mortgage market's become more uncertain. So I think I do see a bit more uncertainty with residential developers, but the underlying factors don't change though. There is still a need to build more houses, and that's not going to change in the foreseeable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I attended UK REIF, and one of the key themes that was coming out of quite a lot of presentation was kind of, you know, how do we get past the blockers in terms of building more residential? And there was quite a few good ideas kind of floating around at UK REIF, and it'd be good to see those come to fruition and actually support the market.
Yeah, excellent. Homes England were very much front and centre at UK REIF, and one of the things that sounded really exciting about that was a partnership they announced with Bradford and English Cities Fund, which is going to be a really exciting one to watch going forward.
At UK REIF, there was a panel that was chaired by Alistair Campbell and representatives from various local authorities across the country, and the theme that kind of ran through the presentation, which the audience seemed to absolutely agree with, was what are the blockers? What are, you know, how can local authorities work with suppliers better, and how they can improve the supply chain to work better together? And where there's models that work across a specific local authority, how can that model be adopted and shared with other local authorities, just so that they're sharing information better, working with suppliers that are better, that are slicker and more innovative. So it's not kind of rocket science to a certain degree. It's just about how local authorities and suppliers can work smarter.
Excellent. I think that moves us on nicely to our next section on key developments and development trends. Bradford's exciting. There's also a lot of stuff going on in Leeds. We've covered a few stories on Whitehall Riverside this year. There's been big news on the build to rent front there with Glenbrook developing, which in a scheme backed by Legal and General. There's also movement on the office scheme, which Town Centre Securities have progressed through planning. It's an exciting time. I remember sort of Whitehall Riverside having a big phase of development sort of 15, 20 years ago, sort of up to a certain level, and then things have quietened down. You've seen this over the years as well, haven't you, Louise?
Yeah, for quite a lot of my working life in Leeds, I've worked kind of along Whitehall Riverside, and it's been great to see the regeneration across the area where the majority of buildings sit now. It used to be kind of a retail park and warehousing, and I'm old enough to remember when you could kind of hide your car and park for free in the area for the day, which was great. But it's great to see what the area is like now. And interestingly, for many years now, I've parked at Whitehall Riverside, and I think it was only about 2 or so months ago that I was driving down Whitehall Riverside, and the car park that's been there for many years is now being developed, which is probably the scheme that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's always a sign when the car parks disappear and sandwich vans start to appear for lots and lots of guys in high-vis. I wanted to talk about Sheffield here because I was in Sheffield for a couple of days a few weeks ago, and blown away really by the levels of activity there. There's so much happening. Both universities are advancing big projects. Urban Splash are moving on with the next phase at Park Hill. There's stuff going on at the Sheffield Olympic Legacy Park, which is just an enormous opportunity. And in the city centre, it's been a real time of change. Again, guys in high-vis absolutely everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I think there's an interesting national story playing out in Sheffield in that the two big department stores, Cole Brothers store and Debenhams, are both moving on at the moment. They've both been empty, like a lot of department stores across the country. Cole Brothers last week, it's right across from City Hall, Barker's Pool, so it's a really important site for the city. And they announced last week Urban Splash are their preferred developer to take that forward in a mixed-use scheme. There's going to be a kind of market scheme in Debenhams, which is not far away at all. And the City Council are investing a lot in the public realm around there. There's a lot of planting and just the improvement of public space along streets like Fargate. So I think in sort of a year's time and beyond that, Sheffield City Centre it's just going to look incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's doing fantastically well. We're going to be working closely with Sheffield Property Association moving forward, and it'll be interesting how we can develop that relationship and work kind of closer, with businesses across Sheffield and beyond.
Louise, can you tell us a bit about what Place North is offering to the market?
Yeah, sure. The key themes are Place Northwest has got a fantastic reputation. It became clear to me in my first couple of days in role that we are the voice of property in the Northwest. We've built up a fantastic reputation in the Built Environment Network. We are known for our quality of news. It's very specific, very regional. People enjoy reading it frequently. And the quality of our events as well. People enjoy attending. They're great for networking. We work with clients that have worked with us in terms of sponsorship of these events for many years. And that kind of reputation has, flowed quite nicely, certainly into Yorkshire, where we've worked with clients that have got kind of a base in both. So quite quickly, our reputation has grown exponentially in Yorkshire in the last 3 months. And people are really excited that we've launched our 2024 events plan. People are really looking forward to the likes of the Industry and Logistics Conference. We've already got a lot of interest in that. Development update, and also the social things as well. Yorkshire's quite well known for some of the social events that they do, but I think there's a gap for more. So I'm really looking forward to us launching Yorkshire Place Party for the first time, and our Christmas social, and kind of the events that align with UK Roof as well. So yeah, it's that's why people want to work with us. I think we're known for our integrity and our professionalism and our dedication to the market.
In the North East as well, we're seeing lots of interesting stories come forward. I've been sort of not taken aback, but it's really impressive the level of industrial activity around County Durham. It shows the sort of appetite for development and investment around there. There's some major schemes going on, such as Integra 61, Prime Point we've done a story on, but also in the cities. Sunderland Riverside is a really major project. It's been really interesting to sort of get my teeth into as a set of stories. There's a new footbridge, and we always love infrastructure going in new bridges are always a sort of signal of intent for regeneration as far as we're concerned. There's a food and drink element and it doesn't sound exciting, but there's a big new car park that's been opened up, which sort of goes in ahead of the more interesting development in a way, I suppose. But it's got a really interesting design. I would urge people to look at the story. The architect is called Tonkin Liu. They've won awards for loads of really interesting stuff down the years, and so do look it up on Place North East. And
added to that as well, as a Teesside and myself, it's great to see the developments that are happening across Teesside. I'm really pleased about that.
Yeah, we've done stuff, done a few pieces there, and there's always interesting things going on at the moment. I think there's keen public sector driving things forward. I think that links us in really with our next topic area, which is leadership. And obviously there's been sort of fairly high profile issues around some of the mayoral issues. Tees Valley, there's the stories there with the mayor, but the mayoral model is something that's sort of really being pushed forward at the moment, and it does in many ways seem to be the only show in town in terms of regional governance and getting full funding support for what you need. One of the interesting things we've seen has been the move towards combining 7 authorities in the northeast, and the sort of what's been happening there. There's a sort of sideline story with the Labour candidate. The incumbent North of Tyne Mayor, Jamie Driscoll, is not going to be in the running for this one by the looks of things. The Kim McGuinness, who was the Police and Crime Commissioner, is going to be in the running. It's a bit of a political bun fight, really. But it's certainly something that we're keeping a keen eye on. There are things moving forward. I think in Hull and East Riding, they're looking at a combined authority there. Yorkshire and North Yorkshire are definitely moving this forward. And obviously the West and South Yorkshire councils are already very much along with it. Tracy Brabbin's been a very, very high profile.
She has.
For West Yorkshire. I think that's probably been, but from where you sit, that's been a big difference over the last few years since Tracy's been in.
Absolutely. And, I think Tracy's doing a fantastic job. She's everywhere at the minute and, kind of driving activity across the region, but certainly in the Built Environment Network. She was very high profile at UK Reef, and she's very passionate about kind of the, and I know we're going to talk about this shortly, is the transport networks across West Yorkshire and beyond as well. But she's a huge advocate for the region and doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, I think we're in an era where sort of having a high profile leadership figure is absolutely vital. Sort of even outside the mayoral model, we see sort of chief executives like Tom Reardon at Leeds City Council, who's always a sort of very steady presence. He's been in the role there for quite a while now, probably over 10 years, and I think he's seen as sort of one of those guys who's sort of been around, knows what he's doing, he knows the sort of each of the moving parts around running a big local authority like that, and what a long-term game a lot of this is. Things like the regeneration story on the South Bank in Leeds, which has sort of taken different forms and had different elements to it. There was going to be a big HS2 play there, and then there wasn't. So you've got to sort of move with the times and adapt and sort of work with different parties as things change, I suppose. Moving on to our next area, we were going to talk about transport. It's always, is it controversial in the UK? Or is it just sort of generally something we're resigned to talking about, and people developing ideas which don't really get anywhere for lack of funding and long-term political infighting?
I think that's right. It's something kind of, it's always on the agenda. At any event you attend, regardless of whether it's linked to the kind of, transport and infrastructure or not. It was interesting when the Northern Powerhouse launched probably about 7 or 8 years ago now, and kind of that whole, transport piece and what, how to connect the North and how the North could work better was kind of number one on the list. And then it's kind of fizzled away, and as ever, it's kind of a shadow of what it was meant to be. And certainly, we need to be linking the likes of Manchester and Leeds better, and certainly linking kind of Yorkshire and the North East better as well. And we're having all of these conversations. We'd have conversations, until the cows come home. But obviously we need to look at kind of what transport looks like in the individual cities as a starting point, as well as linking up the major cities, I think.
Yeah, Leeds has going at various points over the last 20 years with a tram project and trolley bus project, and I think the talk now is sort of the West Yorkshire mass transit system. Is there sort of much chat about that from the people you're speaking?
There really is. It's kind of the hot topic. So at UK Reeve, Tracy Bradman announced that there will be spades in the ground by the end of the decade, to finally get our tram system underway in the region. And I attended an event last week where transport and infrastructure was high on the agenda, and it was kind of the comparison to the Leeds city centre of now compared to 20 years ago, when you could, I'll go back to me kind of, finding that parking spots, on what is now Whitehall Riverside quite easily, to kind of now you can see the development across Leeds every day. And of course there's pain, and it's difficult to kind of get into the city centre and get into your car and drive, but that pain is needed. Leeds is looking towards a mass transit system that works for Leeds and the region and beyond, in the next 20 years. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think all cities have to reduce reliance on the car.
Absolutely.
We can't go on sort of with that. And there has been good work done not in isolation, but in sort of various parts. A lot of the cities and towns within our regions have done great work at various points. So the last 20 years, improving their main stations as a gateway. It's been interesting the last couple of months. We've been covering these stories. Darlington, the station there, which obviously is on the main line sort of between Newcastle and London, isn't it? And Wilmot Dixon, I've won the contract there, so I think that's started now. So there's going to be, I think it's £30 million scheme. So that's an interesting one. Sunderland station, there's a big new entrance to one of the sides there. So it's just sort of creating that sense of arrival, because railway stations, as when they were developed in the UK, were sort of in that industrial era. They were clattering into the stations, and there was steam everywhere, and everything was noisy and loud. And so the areas around stations haven't always been amazing, but it's been one of the themes of regeneration over the last couple of decades, that people have looked to really improve the gateways. Sheffield have done it really well. Leeds very much improved. There's further work going on there now, I think. So it's always been an interesting area for us.
Yeah, and going back to Leeds again, I think many years ago it went through what was called a once-in-a-lifetime change, and there were the, Leeds train station adapted. But it's quite clear, because unlike Manchester, Leeds has only got the one train station, so it needs to absolutely be fit for purpose. And I know there's talk about it, improvements and changes being made again. And if you do visit Leeds train station, you can see kind of the works that are happening outside of it already. So it'll be interesting to see how kind of that space will be adapted again to deal with the increased amount of footfall through the station every day that's increasing all of the time.
I think one of the issues that's been frustrating for us in transport over the last few years has been the issue over the extent to which HS2 gets built out from London heading through the Midlands to the north versus Northern Powerhouse Rail or HS3 or whatever you want to call it. The Trans-Pennine route is generally what I think is best referred to. It's frustrating in that it always seems to be referred to as you can have this or you can have that, and there's nothing in between, whereas in reality, I think everything probably needs improving.
Absolutely. It goes back to kind of we're living in the global age where there should be better connectivity everywhere, and I think it's a crying shame really that we're still at that point where we're talking about how we connect the major cities across the north, from Newcastle all the way through to Manchester and beyond.
Yeah, I think another aspect of it, which is slightly underplayed across the media, I think probably everybody's guilty in that, but adding in rural communities as well. One of the first stories we did on Place North East in March was on the Northumberland line, which sort of investment cases have been made for, and that's hopefully going to all be going ahead, and that'll open up. Jamie Driscoll again talked at UK Reef about, he's giving some case studies of how that's going to improve access to college education and access to jobs for the kids that are in those areas, and who generally at the moment face the sorts of situations where it's 2 buses and an hour and a half to get to college as opposed to 15 minutes on a train. And he was saying the dropout numbers from kids in those areas who are at college in Newcastle or Sunderland or wherever is absolutely enormous, because it's just really hard to do that for more than a term or so.
Exactly. It underpins everything. And, we talk about, great developments across all of our major cities in the north and, attracting businesses into areas and whatnot. But actually, it's our transport that underpins everything. We need the transport to work in order to get the people into these major cities and towns in order to work properly.
Yeah, it's all about getting people to places to do business, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay. I think we've covered all the key areas that we really wanted to touch on there as this sort of a taste or an introduction to the kind of areas that Place North are interested in covering. From my point of view, all what I'd like to really say to people in the market is get in touch with us, give us your stories. We want to hear from you. We want to cover everything sort of in property. We're sort of across all sort of council and public sector organisations, seeing what's coming through the pipeline there. But we want people to come to us and give us their stories. What are you doing? Where are the developments? What's coming down the track for you? So you know where we are. Louise, what's your sort of take on things at the end?
Yeah, same. Just to echo your comments, we're here to support the Built Environment Network. We're here for the industry, and we're here to help raise your profiles. So if we can support it in any way, please do get in touch.